is an associate professor of early childhood education at the University of Texas, Rio Grande Valley, United States. She received her PhD in human development from Virginia and her master's in English literature from Delhi University, India. She has been teaching in higher education for 17 years. Her research interests are children's play and conflict, the exploration of teacher identity, and more recently, the post-COVID-19 world of higher education. Her focus is on teaching-learning relationships in online model of teaching. And the title of her talk today is Equity in Higher Education, Considering Access and Opportunities Post-COVID-19. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much. Before I begin, I would like to thank Dr. Anuradha Rai for inviting me to share my thoughts on the effects of COVID-19 on education. I am an alumni of Southfield College long time ago when it was Loreto College, Darjeeling, and I am indebted to my professors and instructors. They inspired me to follow in their footsteps. I know this institution continues to inspire students under the able leadership of Dr. Rai and under the guidance of her team of expert faculty. I commend Dr. Dipti Suppa on organizing this conference on such a pertinent topic. And I'm honored and humbled to present with Doctors Benudhar, Chinara, Gayatri Goswamee, Jayanti Das, and Ramakanta Mohalik. And I also thank all the participants who have cleared their busy schedule to log in. So I will be presenting on issues of equity in higher education and, especially pertaining to access and opportunities post-COVID. So I'm going to kind of rush through things a bit here because of the time limit. All of our lives, I'll be preaching to the choir if by saying that all our lives have been thrown into a spin with this global pandemic, and education has suffered too at all levels, right? It has been deeply affected and transformed by it. And as educators, we're still deeply concerned with all aspects of teaching and learning and how this will look in the post-COVID-19 times. So from now on, whenever we talk about education, we'll probably be talking about, pre-COVID and post-COVID, because as far as we are concerned, or I'm concerned, what we're going through right now is not the shape of education in the times to come. Right now, what we're doing is plugging up holes, preventing damage, doing damage control. But I'm not sure that what we're seeing, this panicked reaction to the pandemic, is not the face of education. We are moving towards a new face of education, but not what we are doing currently, at least not what I'm doing currently or what my university is doing currently can be described as the face of education post-COVID. So, the global nature of this pandemic has also made us realize that this is not an isolated incident. It surprised us, certainly, but we knew this was coming, right? It was not something that has blindsided us. We knew deep down with the ease with which we've moved around the world, with global markets opening up, with the World Wide Web accessible to us, that pandemics such as this one would travel through the world with the same ease and facility as we do. We knew it would happen. We knew it could happen, but we just hoped it wouldn't. And well, here we are, right? So in a crisis, the most heavily hit people are the poor, the rural, the marginalized, the disenfranchised, And at such time, inequities that exist even during normal times are heightened by crises. So, however, before, when I was first invited to talk, I was excited by the topic and I was raring to go because we've experienced so much as educators. But I was worried about the contextual differences of teaching and learning in the United States and in India, which also then plays out into how changes such as this affect people and institutions. So I really want to point out that, what I'm talking about today is my context, the reality, and I want to situate myself because I think it is very important to establish that where I am, what is happening here. And, it can be generalized and extrapolated out of that, but this is really what I want to talk about is like a case study of one institution, one college within that institution, one department within it, and then narrowing it down to the focus of one faculty and, how we're coping. So my context, before I go on, I want to explain my context. I am an early childhood professor and I'm teaching in one of the 9 universities under the University of Texas system. Where I teach, my location where I teach is very unique. My university lies on the US-Mexico border. So from my university campus, it's a 5-minute walk across a bridge into Mexico, a different world, a different living, a different language, different people. 95% of my students are Hispanic, and more than 50 of them are first in their family to ever attend a college, right? And the university is located in one of the poorest parts of Texas. The other amazing thing is that many of my students actually cross the border to attend class, right? So that is my context. When we talk about higher education, we're talking about universities. We're talking about the students, we're talking about the faculty, and of course, we are talking about the larger system, the state and local governments that influence the decision of these universities. So the university as an institution is concerned with the entire dynamics of making good education accessible, or whether, normal times or in pandemic times, we want to reach more and more people and make, higher education accessible to people. The other goal, of course, is to graduate students who are capable of being employed, right? So you want competent people with the knowledge and soft skills to be readily employed. And thus contribute to society and become good citizens. But it is also preoccupied with being financially viable because you cannot run a university on nothing, right? So which means having healthy enrollments, having access to state and federal funds, access to endowments, etc. Now, consider for a moment how the pandemic affects all of this. Closing of university campus means having to provide education for students remotely, virtually, and this leads into all kinds of problems with accessibility, right? So if you are in the business of making education accessible, when you have to change gears and have it put it online or virtually, you face some problems, infrastructural problems, problems with students' ability to acquire, the tools that are required to be successful in an online program. So both how to provide education that can be accessed remotely, but also how to make sure that the resources that they have now provided are accessible to all students. The universities here have also suffered because residential universities rely a lot on the income that is generated from students living in dorms. Many universities, ours is a commuter university, so we haven't suffered as much from students having to abandon, leave dorm rooms and be refunded some of the fees that they had paid. Also, many state-funded schools, and ours relies on state funding. The pandemic has resulted in the states, reallocating funds to fight the pandemic, which means less funds are available for higher education institutions, just as they are in a crucial need for that extra money to make the changes that they need to in order to be able to still make education accessible. So relying on state funds also means having to adhere. Now, this is the other part of relying on state funds. When you rely on state funds, it also means that you have to toe the line that the state sets for you. Many of you all must be, reading about the surge in COVID cases in Texas. And yet we have been asked to open up schools. And this is not just the university, but this is also, the elementary schools and pre-K through 12 to open up in August when the new school year begins. The university, of course, has taken its own stance on that, and we are going completely online for fall. So we've had to change gears, we have to gear up, and we have to make sure that we are ready to go on to completely online teaching. We have been teaching online since March. We got 1 week in which we had to convert all our classes, put all our material online, and the campus lay empty, bereft of students and faculty. Now we have, of course, and now going forward in the fall, what we were doing earlier was, like I said, just plugging holes. But going into fall, we want to be better prepared. So the entire summer has gone in acquiring skills that will help us, make learning accessible to our students. Now, the faculty, my university uses an educational platform called Blackboard. And for the most part, for traditional in-class face-to-face courses, this platform has been used for communicating with students, loading pertinent information, sending reminders, etc. It's a repository of sorts for coursework. Many faculty, most faculty members who were used to face-to-face class used this to communicate to students, but not necessarily relied on it as a tool of, for dispensing information. However, most in-class course instructors, they still used lectures, classroom interactions, discussions, and in a few cases, they still had students turn in hard copies of their assignment and their work, which were then graded, right? For other instructors, this educational platform offered a lot of flexibility and was used from anything from 100% online courses, hybrid courses, flipped courses. And for the past 5 years, I have increasingly used this tool to move my teaching material online, making all learning material accessible at once at the beginning of the course so that students can, access that material at their own pace. They know that there are deadlines for assignments. They know that, things have to be turned in a certain manner, but if they wish to proceed and in an accelerated way, they can, right? So that allowed them, so that was one of them. Now, the question of equity arises, among faculty arises when one considers that not all faculty members have the same technical know-how. Not everyone was experienced, was expected to, hence not everyone was provided the same amount of training. And when training was provided, not everyone opted to take it because, it wasn't compulsory then and we didn't need to do it. And there was always the option to teach face-to-face. So when the pandemic created a moment when we had to change our modus operandi almost overnight, some faculty were more equipped than others to do so. This was a source of serious concern and stress, as I'm sure everyone has felt it across the world. And you could have two professors teaching the same course, and one suddenly became less effective as a teacher because of technical skills that were not anticipated. Right? And of course, now the students suffered greatly. There's a lot of things that impacted student learning. It wasn't just confined to socioeconomic status and the inavailability of tools for learning, access to like internet and things like that. But it was socioeconomic status, geography of where they lived, whether they were in Mexico or they were in the United States, borders closed down, how do they access what they need? Gender, family roles, language, age, these were all contributing factors. There was, of course, interrupted access to internet and, and learning supports. Students lost their access to spaces of learning. So what was more, I guess we concentrated so much on how would students gain access to the material that we were putting? How do we reach out to all students? What do we do with students who don't have internet access or live in places where they, where internet is not available? And we do have places like that because we are at the border. So we were worried about this, but in the middle of all of that, students had lost so much more. They had lost, the learning community, the ability to walk into campus, mingle with like-minded people, access library resources, do group projects together. So studying in isolation became a great stressor for students, leading to a lot of problems with motivation, depression, mental health, and all of that. Now, so added to these were the fears. Now, so they have lost libraries, study rooms, group projects, field experiences, suddenly because they can no longer go into schools to observe children or work with children. That was all cast aside, set aside, and there were certain leniency in the number of hours they had to do for field work and practical work. Those were we had to make some adjustments there to accommodate students who couldn't, have access to these experiences then. Added to these were the fears and stress of course, contracting the virus, watching family members lose their jobs, get sick, have to provide health care to their elderly sick parents, to their children. Quarantine and lockdowns became the new normal. And these were all at once bewildering and extremely dangerous for mental health. So that was the other thing that we had to pay attention to while we're trying to make learning accessible to our students, while we're trying to make sure that, we are leveling out the playing field so that everyone can participate in it. We also had to make sure that we were keeping in touch with our students and checking on them to see that they were not suffering, other than just keeping up with schoolwork. Yesterday in his talk, Dr. Chinara mentioned that only 4% of rural students had access to internet, which means about 96% don't in India, in rural areas. And in my context, this is different because, I'm not dealing with 94% who don't have access to internet or to technical tools for education. I'm talking about 5% of my students being unable to access the internet or a reliable computer when socially distancing and staying at home and being quarantined. Some of the things that were possible to do because of the smaller number requiring these kind of supports for the university was, specifically in the College of Education, was that the university was able to loan out computers to students. Certain school districts parked school buses in remote areas with Wi-Fi routers so that students in those areas could have access to internet. I'm also aware that internet companies were advertising deals for cheaper and faster networks, during this time, access to unlimited streaming and things like that, so that people could access their lectures and other learning material online. However, this does not sort out all the problems with access to online learning. With everyone working from home, even households with computers and electronic devices, increase the load on domestic Wi-Fi use and cause many problems. The use of computers in these homes were also prioritized by utility, where working parents got first access to it, and then students got access to those computers afterwards, right? So in my home, and I am privileged that we can afford those 4 computers, but at any given moment, I have 2 adult children who are studying online and doing their courses, university courses online, and there are 2 educators in the house trying to teach online at the same time in different parts of the house. And this can lead to a lot of negotiations and problems, but those are minor compared to people who don't have access to these. So I'm going to keep my allotted time in mind, and I'm going to quickly go over some of the things that I have had to personally do to make sure that my students had a chance at being successful in these suddenly changed times. So I think the key during this time for me was communication between the students and I, making sure that I was accessible to them at all time. And this was at the cost of my privacy, because I handed out my personal cell phone number, which was more reachable. Had students texting me at any time with any kind of problem, whether it was related to schoolwork or they were having anxiety and stress. And if I could guide them to the right person who could help them with all their different, if it was technical issues, I could tell them where to access it. I had information sheets. I had information, mass texted to everyone, so that, I wouldn't be calling it spammed, but I did send out a lot of mass emails to my students, giving them information first when we started on a daily basis, so that they knew just where we were going and what we were doing to make arrangements for them. And as the days passed, it became weekly. And even when I'm not teaching, I am, bi-weekly, I send out notices to them, just informing them about, what needs to be done next, and letting them know that I'm available for them. So communication was a huge. I'd also given permission to the office staff who were working remotely but still accessing their phone calls and emails to hand out my cell phone to students who were in my program, because I'm also the coordinator of the early childhood program. I asked all my students also, the smartphone is an amazing thing. The number of apps that you can use to your advantage is also amazing. Many of my students couldn't get onto a computer. Sometimes there were snags on the number of people trying to access the Blackboard platform, and it would hang and crash, and things like that were happening. So what I did was I downloaded a program called Remind, which where you can create a virtual classroom and you can share notifications with students, and they don't, it protects their privacy. It does not show me their numbers, but if they subscribe to it, I can send out individual or mass texts to them. And so we did this. It's called Remind. I also, within a short period of time, I recorded numerous micro lectures. These were, of course, they were, many of them were content related, but they also had certain relational aspects where I asked students what they were doing. I gave them information on staying safe during the, quarantine period here. I gave them information that they might not have had access to. These micro lectures were created on a tool called Panopto, which also does closed captioning, and you can go in and change your, the closed captioning if there's anything that is amiss there. And you can post these on YouTube and give, limited access to people that you invite to view them. So my students, had me talking to them and lecturing to them, especially concepts that I wanted them to understand. And I felt that they would need some sort of a reinforcement other than just reading their material, which was posted online. I scheduled Zoom meeting times when I would just I would be on Zoom and I would leave it open and I would send the link to everyone, and they could come in and enter as they wanted. And if they wanted to have a private talk with me, they could schedule another Zoom event, but I would make sure that I had an office time where I would be available to my students. So the university also has been backpedaling and trying to give us as much support as faculty members to make sure that we are equipped to teach online. This past summer, which is usually my time, I enrolled in a course called a blueprinting course, which basically teaches you how to, construct a 100% online course. And it introduces to best practices with regards to online teaching, how to align course materials, and assessments to course learning outcomes, design meaningful assessments and authentic assessments for online learning. These were things that we all needed to know. And so I was grateful for that. Students too got, they got a crash course in not just using technology during this time, to access materials, but also in creating content, because, teaching teachers is a very hands-on job. We do a lot of activities, in-class activities. Students do a lot of demos. When we don't have classrooms available for them to work with young children, they practice on each other. There's a lot of role playing. These were things that we couldn't conduct on an online course, or it was made more difficult. So what the students learned really quickly turnaround was to use technology to record themselves doing these demos and then post them to me so that I could evaluate these videos. All of it was very time consuming. One of the things that I've learned is that online teaching is much, much more involved than face-to-face teaching, especially if you want to keep the rigor and maintain the integrity of what you're teaching. The amount of material that has to be covered becomes, is huge. And so, opening up discussion boards where you put up a concept or a reading and had students discuss these but what happened is they got into very live discussions, but you had to be on the other end reading these comments and posts, much like a social media post where they, comment and post, and making sure that you are monitoring what is being discussed, that they were on task, cleaning out misinformation, posting to guide the thought process. So it was very challenging, at the same time very intriguing. So we got some of that done. I taught a course in the summer, which was completely 100% online, and that went better than the spring teaching, which was very difficult. The learning curve is huge. The other thing that we did with field experience was, now that the students, the schools where they used to do their field experiences were also closed, but the schools had also started an online teaching where the lead teacher was teaching for several hours or meeting up with different groups of children. So what we negotiated with those teachers was, that these student teachers would help them during those Zoom sessions, when they break out into discussion groups and things like that. So they could either record themselves and post it to me, or I could enter the Zoom sessions and watch them in interaction with students. Not the best scenario, but we make do with what is available. I know I'm talking about a lot of things which takes for granted that students have access to these tools, technological tools. But I've also seen how tech savvy, youngsters all over the world are. I've had students make TikTok videos to reflect on their coping methods with COVID. So we've used all kinds. We've been very, very creative, and at the same time, I think I know I'm still looking for answers. I'm still trying to figure out how to do this best. And there's so much more to say, but I think I am going to take a look at the questions. Is there, Dipti, do you know if there is?
Yes, ma'am. One question from Susovana Mukherjee.
Right.
Her question is, the students who have no Android phone or PC or laptop, how they get the study materials?
Right. So when we were talking about higher education, one of this, how do you say, one of the requirements is that they have a working computer, right? Now, access to internet is a whole different ballgame, whether they have it or not. But most students should have a computer in the higher ed level. Now, when we're talking in the school systems, there are a lot of students who come from extreme poverty and they don't have access to a computer or a smartphone or an Android or, any of this. So what the school districts were doing was where they could do the online, they were doing that. And then the teachers were also charged with making study packages and going and delivering it to the students who didn't have access to those materials. I had one student in my university course who told me that she was not tech savvy and that she had very limited internet connection and would not be able to join me for any of the, any of the Zoom sessions or be able to access my YouTube and all of that because, that would require her to pay a much higher fee in order to have that kind of data service. And in her case, she just had a regular phone. I kept in touch with her, talking to her, and I did give her my desk copy, some of the materials that I had. She, however, decided to discontinue because there were many other stresses that were not related to university work. But that was one of the things. I don't know what you would do where there are, a large number of students or a majority of students who don't have access to that. Does that answer your question?
Ma'am, here's again another question from the same participant.
Right.
Is interaction facilities in online teaching more than classroom teaching? If yes, how is it possible?
Okay, so interaction, for me, relationship is the key to good teaching practices, that you have to establish this, with your students. So one of the, I certainly know that face-to-face interaction is the best, probably. But I would not throw aside online education, because I used to hold what is called synchronous Zoom classrooms, where everyone meets for class, and I interact with them. I do lectures, I do breakout groups, discussion sessions, all of that. But one of the things that I found was, which negated my earlier feelings of relationship, was usually as a professor, I see my students enter my classroom and they are what they present. Once in a blue moon, when we have the time, we talk about each other's lives. I give them examples from my lives. They are talking about their experiential learning. But I know them as, very, for lack of a better word, very flat, one-dimensional, two-dimensional people. But through Zoom, they entered my home. In the middle of my lecture, they would hear my daughter or my dogs barking, and we would get into a conversation about that. I would be watching them on Zoom, and they would suddenly get yelled at or reprimanded by their parent for taking up too much. Their parents thought they were on Netflix, and they would say, "Get off the computer, get off your devices, and share with the family." I got to meet their dogs, I got to meet their spouses, I got to meet their grandmothers and parents through Zoom. So, the relationship that I developed with my students, and of course, I don't have very large classes. My largest class was 40 people. I could develop that, but I know again that, this is unique to my position, my classroom, and my experience. But I don't think that it can be, we can, just say that interactions don't exist. You cannot build relationships through online modes.
Ma'am, there's another question from Ria Banerjee. Isn't
Right.
this online teaching learning process promoting digital divide?
I certainly think so. I think the digital divide is phenomenal, especially in places like India. Here, when that divide does occur, it is deep. It is, the impact is almost irreversible when, the inequities are just so great. In India, I know there's, I go home every summer, and this is the only summer I'm here, and you do see that, you do perceive it. And I don't know how one could span that divide, but I do know that it is going to be more and more necessary. We know that this pandemic is not one of a kind. We know that, the way this has traveled, there are going to be other diseases, there are going to be other things, crises that are going to affect us globally, and that it is time we take a look at how we do things. But yes, the digital divide exists, and in moments like this, the inequities created by that is even more significant.
Ma'am, one more question
Right.
from Ratan Samantha. If
Mhm.
online teaching is, if online teaching is introduced in higher education institutions in future, do you think it would be viable for poor students interested in higher education?
Well, in an ideal world, it would. But I absolutely see the concern. However, so um, I guess it depends on demographics. Now, let me give you an example here. I teach courses which are not for teacher certification, but some of my courses are for early child educators who work in daycares and childcare. They're not certified teachers, and they work in these pretty minimum wage jobs, right? Many of them have problems with transportation. They have problems with making the time, because they also have to earn a living. So they are usually non-traditional students who are working during the day. My classes are in the evening. This particular pandemic actually really helped them. In fact, they've come to me and asked if, and I am in the process of creating a completely 100% online program for a certain demographic of students who already work with young children and are competent in what they're doing. They just need a degree, and coursework to validate their knowledge. And so I'm making and creating currently with a grant that I've received from Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board, 100% competency-based program. Now, what this competency-based program does is it takes away, it is first of all affordable, and it is accessible, and it is self-paced. So what it does is, if you are competent in certain areas, you can complete that course by just showing your competency, the artifacts, the material that you need to produce, and to show your knowledge in that. You can do a 7-week module in 2 weeks and be done with it, and be validated for the knowledge that you've acquired through all these years working with young children, going for professional development that is required by licensing here. So those are some of the things that, it does. And you are, barring the fact that you might not have internet and a computer, but you are accessing education from the comfort of your home. You're not having to, and so yesterday, Dr. Chinara was mentioning MOOCs. MOOCs has become very, very popular, massive open online courses have become very popular because these are taught by experts in their field, and you can access them from the comfort of your home. A lot of them are open and free. Some of them charge a nominal amount to certify that you have, to give you the credits for taking that course. So I don't know. Higher education is certainly, changing paths. I don't think what has defined it in the past is going to, the same definition is going to hold true in the future.
Ma'am, one more question from Dalia Sengupta.
Right.
The question is, do this online teaching method have it increased the teacher's effort and teaching stress?
Certainly. On the onset, like I said, it is a huge learning curve. The amount a person has to understand of how these platforms work, what it does, what it's capable of. I mean, I'm learning every day about, the intricacies of Zoom and how much you can do on it. I used to just use it, to talk with family members and have Zoom conversations with friends, and of course, Zoom meetings with students one-on-one. But I didn't realize that there were, that you can take polls on it, that you can have people write in. It's like a whiteboard, and people can follow discussions and write in. You can share documents. Of course, we all know that. But there is so much more one can do. I use things like Mentimeter. I don't know if you all have known that, but when I want to gauge the content knowledge on a new concept from students, I use Mentimeter to create word clouds, so that students can start off a rich discussion on where they are with that knowledge. So there is much that we don't know about it, but the learning curve, it is exhausting. I haven't taken a day's break this summer, and I usually do. I'm usually, my work is only for 9 months, and I can take 3 months off, but the past, since March 15th, I go to sleep around 2 a.m. in the morning, reading up, working on things, fixing things. I feel that once all of that has been done, it's going to be much better. But right now it isn't. It is high stress. It's very high stress.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I think we have got all the answers. Thank you, ma'am, for your valuable talk, and we are really enriched by your talk. We also look forward for your interaction with us in future, ma'am.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. To the next speaker that we have today, joining us is Professor Ramakanta Mohalik. He is from the Department of Education, Regional Institute of Education, NCERT, Bhuvaneswar, Orissa. Professor Mohalik completed his education in Orissa and was awarded PhD from Ravenshaw University, Cuttack. He has also been involved in teaching since 2004 and is teaching various courses like MEd, MA, MPhil, and has supervised many PhD scholars. Professor Mohalik has also a credit of over 60 research publications in different national and international journals and has completed 6 major research projects funded by NCERT. He is actively involved in administrative field too. At present, he is working on online learning and assessment in school education, teacher education, and higher education. The title of his talk today is Perspective of Online Courses in Higher Education. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Dipti. At the outset, I express my sincere thanks to the principal of Visva-Bharati and his team. That I felt very happy, like when Dipti contacted me by looking to the topic, the title of the webinar. It's very interesting to me, and I think interesting to all of us now. Like then I have decided something very specific and particular. Then after a lot of thinking, I thought, let us share the idea of online course, because such a time and we expected to facing this kind of situation. We are sure till that this thing and we will be and moving free. Also don't like where educational institution like university. So what happened is this pandemic has taught us one thing. I think this is something this is not a blessing that due to this, I think there is too much understanding and technology every field of life, including medicine, including hospitals.
Excuse me, sir. Excuse me, Professor Mohalik. Can you hear me? Hello? I think we should wait for sir to rejoin the session. There is a network problem. I think we should wait for some time.
Not in India. I was listening to Dr. Vijayan also, like she also sharing same idea. Like this may be some of the difficulty that we are facing in our online education. So what I am trying to suggest you, I want to propagate the online courses in the higher education during and after this pandemic, because you don't have I'm not propagating for the school education, because the school education, the children are younger, even they are not ready to they are not ready to learn through online platforms. But for us as an adult member of this society, so we can learn through online method. So therefore, not during this pandemic, even after this pandemic, there is a great perspectives of online courses in India. So of course, since 3 years, in India, maybe I can say not 3 years exactly, in 2000, after 2015, the government of India and also the UGC, they have initiated to propagate the idea of online education in India, and especially by using a SWAYAM platforms. SWAYAM is a Indian version of MOOC. So through SWAYAM platforms, the UGC has created a lot of courses. But I felt just before to this pandemic, the courses were not so popular. Many of the faculty members and many of the students, they are not aware about the SWAYAM courses, the MOOC courses, the online courses. If you make a survey now in higher education, now at this moment, maybe after 3 months of this pandemic, you will find many and majority, they are almost familiar with the online courses. Because this is something I was suggesting. One way this pandemic has forced us in education situation or educational institution to learn technology and to use technology for teaching, for assessment. I was listening some of the questions raised by the participant. Even I strongly advocate we can make our class interactive. I think more interactive then our face-to-face classes, if we know the technological tools and technological applications. And therefore, in higher education, still today I believe, since many of my faculty, many of my colleagues are not familiar with this technological platform, gradually they are developing understanding. But maybe the university or the UGC, they have to they have to take the classes, training orientation to the faculty members, and they will help all the faculty members to get this idea. So with this background, very quickly, I have a very small presentation. Very quickly, let me present some of the idea why I suggest the future perspectives of online teaching is in higher education. So why online education or online courses will be one of the top priority, not in India, everywhere in the world. Why online courses? Online courses, as I said, has a great potential, not in India, this entire world. Advanced countries of the world, they have started these online courses many years ago. But in India, recently, only last 5 years, I can say, we just started. But this pandemic has forced us to spread the online courses like anything. Now, almost all the universities, they have started online courses. Why these online courses and why these online courses will be successful even in India? Of course, there is a limitations are there, people will object, but I strongly advocate, we have to go with the online courses in the future. Entire span of higher education would go on online. We can go for a blended learning approach also. But online courses have a great place or a great role in our higher education. Why is so? The number one point I have listed is rapid development of technology. So mostly, the rapid development of mobile technology. Now, if you see, our majority of the students, those who are in higher education, I am talking to the students, those who are in higher education, not the common people, not the public. Okay. Majority of the students, those who are in higher education nowadays, in India, I see in my experience, I have visited many state and universities. They are having a, Android phone at least an Android phone, a smartphone. So even they are having a many mobile applications, slide share they may having a Google Meet, they are having Geo meeting, they are having so many learning applications and platforms they are having in their mobile. So therefore, the online course can be successful in our higher education in future. I think this will be the policy of the government. Okay. Then, that's another development in India in the last maybe 10 years actually. So gradually there is a wider internet connections. Now in the places, the villages where there is no road connection, but you can find the net connection there, the phone connection there, the digital TV connection is there. So this connection will enforce positively for online courses successfully even in India. The other things the government has taken a lot of initiative. One of the initiative government has started for especially for higher education is SWAYAM. So SWAYAM you can, this is an initiative. This is not only for teachers. This is also for students. Recently, maybe after this pandemic, UGC has notified SWAYAM courses, SWAYAM course materials, the PowerPoint presentation, the textual presentation, the video presentations are freely available for all students of higher education. So this is a government initiative. Government has made it free. Earlier you have to register for SWAYAM first. You have to enroll in a class. Then only you can get access to the material. But now, after this pandemic, SWAYAM is free. Anybody without registration can get any material. You can read, you can download, you can use it. And another one of the important, the program of Government of India is Digital India. So the government aim is to spread or to provide digital medium or digital connection to each and every village, each and every habitation. This is a very, I can say, this ambitious project of the government, but it is started. And therefore, if you run online courses, I think we will be successful. Maybe it will take some more time to get digital access to every village habitation. And there is another very, very important in a pedagogical perspectives. Why online courses? There is a paradigm shift in the learning. We are all familiar that we are following the approach of teaching was behaviorism, where the teacher was dominating the entire education system. So in a teaching, the student has minimum voice. But now we have shifted, at least in India after 2005. After 2005, so our education, both school and teacher education, even higher education, we are shifted to constructivism, which place more importance on collaboration, sharing, exchange of ideas, peer learning. The things like this can only be effectively done by online courses. Of course, there is a time limit. Actually, for example, one thing like how you can collaborate with the students, teachers, all your students. You write something on the web and share with your Google Drive. So all of your friends, all your students will get access to it. They can add it, they can edit it. Some kind of sharing. Now you ask a question, even in Facebook, many people are using. If you ask a question, you will get 1,000 answers. So this is something collaboration, cooperation, and exchange of idea. I think therefore online courses are successful in most of the university and the states. Okay. So another very, very important why we should go for online courses, and particularly in higher education, this is a changing nature of the learners. Now our learners are digital learners. You imagine, when I was the student, maybe 20 years back, when I was the student, even I was not familiar to, open my computer or desktop. We have not seen laptop. I can see maybe 20, 25 years ago, I have not seen a laptop. But desktop computer, I don't know how to open. And I was thinking, this is a great task for me, how to work with a computer. But now you see, now I say with the assurity or with the certainty, I can say majority of our students in higher education, they are familiar with digital devices, like they can work with the laptop, they can work with the desktop computer, and they are very good in mobiles. Therefore, their learning style, their thinking style has changed. So they are now become the digital learners. And therefore, for a digital learner, if you are teaching in a face-to-face class, because in face-to-face class, you are having one teacher giving lecture to them continuously. For 1 hour, they are listening to one teacher only. So they are getting bored now. But if you are shifting your class to the online platform, they are free now. Students are free. They can read the text, they can see your video, they can see, listen to your audio. They can do some exercise that you have posted. So the digital learners actually they want to learn from a variety of sources. So therefore, online courses, the future perspective in India in higher education is the online courses, because students are digitally sound. And further, I think everybody will agree, online courses as a convenience, anytime, that you don't need to come at 10 o'clock or that you don't need to go at 2 o'clock. There is no time limit. Anytime, at the midnight I can read, early morning I can read, anytime I can read, any kind I can do my exercise. Anytime I can ask a question to my students through email. So that is possible in the online learning. So which is very useful in the country like India, where our majority of our students or majority of our parents are not able to or not in a position to support our learners. So majority of our parents are not in a position to support their son and daughters for education, and therefore, this if you implement a online courses, like one students can enroll in a online courses, can learn from a online courses, can complete a maybe graduation degree or post graduation degree. At the same time, he or she can work somewhere else. When you work something, you will be financially dependent. I think that is something that gives a convenience of the learners. And what I suggest now, this even through online courses, we can have a better learning outcomes. We can provide a quality education also. Dipti, is my PPT visible to you?
Yes, sir. It's very much visible, sir.
Hello?
Yes, sir. It's visible. Sir? Hello, sir. It's visible.
Okay. Like online teaching or online courses has a scope for innovating teaching activities. Like in face-to-face classes, doing a game, doing a simulation, doing a discussion. The Indian situation like where our classes are mostly large classes, like 60 somewhere. The college I have seen 100 students are sitting in one room. So in a large size class, organizing the activity like game, simulation, and discussion, I think almost not possible. But in online platforms, we can create a game, we can create a simulation, we can provide a platform for discussion. The students can join and students can participate. Of course, the online learning or online courses are easy to administer and manage. So it is economical. Like you imagine there is only one building. There is one building, and we can offer many courses to many students, because students will really come to the center. So they will be learning through computer, they will be learning through internet, and therefore it becomes easy for administrator. Like now most of the higher education in India, university, you say there is a number of times there is agitation, there is a strike. So many things are happening in most of the time. The campus is shut down, this campus is closed, signed dice. These things are happening. So therefore, if you go for online courses, like the things like administration, management of the students will not be a problem. And technology makes learning lively and real. I think we'll agree with that. Online courses makes learning universal access. Like anybody, if you have an internet connection, even you are from tribal area, you are from remote area, you can also access my lecture. You can complete a course. Only the situation is the requirement is a digital device and with a net connection. This is something. And at this present of time, why we thought of for on online learning or online education, because of an increased role of e-learning, online learning, remote learning due to the pandemic situation in the country. Now, very briefly, let me tell exactly what is online courses. Many of the faculty and many of the students, they what they mean. The online learning, even online courses. Online courses is something like sharing some PDF and sharing some notes, online note, like sharing some soft copy of the notes, sharing some PDF copies, or sharing one video lecture, like you have created a video lecture and sharing something, or a YouTube lecture. I think this is not an online courses. Online course is something. This is a course that is offered over internet. So here in online courses, everything from assignment, project, discussion, everything, the course material, the course video, everything will be shared, offered over internet. So this is online. This it includes PDF, it includes your video, it includes your audio, it includes assignment, it includes lesson, it includes discussion forums. So everything will be on internet. Then only we can say this is the online courses. It is often referred as e-learning, remote learning, e-learning because everything is happening on electronics mode, therefore electronic learning. Remote learning because there is a distance between student and teacher, and student is somewhere else, students are somewhere else, and teacher is somewhere else, and therefore it's a remote learning. So it is internet-based course provided by synchronous and asynchronous mode. I think this is something very, very important we have to understand when we are discussing about the online courses. So online courses use both synchronous medium. You know what is happening now? This is an example of a synchronous medium. Like this is a real-time discussion is going on. So if you like, you can ask me a question. I can answer you directly from here. So this is synchronous. Like both asynchronous is something like when you send an email to me, I can reply after 1 day or after 1 hour, even just immediately when I see my email. Or you can text me a message in WhatsApp or in a general message. So online courses, they use a synchronous model also. They use a synchronous for a discussion, for a deliberation. Okay, it is electronically mediated teaching that integrate pedagogy principle with the use of technology. There is a pedagogy of open learning. There is a pedagogy of online learning. Here actually there is a pedagogy of online learning. Online learning, it is based on a specific pedagogical principles. The pedagogy that we are adopting for our face-to-face classroom is not suitable for online courses or online learning. So therefore we integrate some pedagogical principles. It does not mean only use of internet and digital devices, applications, but to use technology as a means of providing learning. I think this is the central idea of our online courses. So technology will be used, application technology software, they will be used as a medium, as a means of providing learning. And therefore, the online courses is powerful, is a flexible approach that can offer a transformative learning experience to the student. I think this is something very, very important. The online courses has a potential to transform the students. Why and how they will transform the students? I think you can get this answer maybe after another 2 presentations. So let me briefly say, for the success of online courses, what is expected from a learner, what is expected from a online teachers. Both teacher and learner, they must have a study space and access to computers. Like as I said earlier, everything will happen over internet, and therefore, the learner, of course, the teacher having this, and the learner must have access to computer and internet, and more than studies in the room. I think this is something we are facing difficulty. I think even in the world also, like a study space. Recently, I have conducted a survey on my students. Actually, I have collected data from different states of the country, our country, and only 30 to 35% students, those who replied yes, they have a study space in the home for online learning, for attending online classes. There is a space is a problem in India. Maybe it is a some kind of housing problem. I think that we have to offer it. Like for online learning to happen, for online courses, if you want to do it, there must be a study space, at least in your technological devices. One of the very, very important point is related to how these online courses will transform a students, or how it can provide a transformative learning. Because online course demand a self-motivated students. Self-motivated students. And I told you also, in online learning, there is a possibility a child can or a student can do some work, and whenever they are free, they can pursue a course. So I think the students, those who are joining online courses, or those who will join the online courses in future, they are self-motivated. they are self-started, because this kind of motivation is required for online courses. Otherwise, the online courses will fail you. There will be self-motivation. There will be self-discipline. Discipline here I mean they should have always a target to complete, because when you are going on online courses, they always give you targets. By this date you have to complete your assignment, you have to submit it. By these days you have to complete your project, you have to submit it. Therefore, until unless you are self-disciplined, until unless you are, a good time manager, so you may face a difficulty in the online courses time. Of course, they'll give you one date, maybe they may revise the date, but for a successful online courses, we have to be self-disciplined and good time manager. And for a online course learner or teacher, they must be comfortable with the computer and internet, working with the computer, working knowledge of computer and working knowledge of internet, how to open your Google Drive and edit something, and how it's sending mail, and using the different chat forums, writing some what I say, blogs. Like you want to write a blog for discussion, like Edu blogs are there, you can write it. But this is something, since most of the courses in India and these courses are online courses most available in India in the English language. They are where you write. So you are trying to develop now the online courses in the regional mediums. I think some of the universities started in, but at present the courses offer are Hindi and English, and one should be very well in writing, because here in online courses demands a writing skill, because here assignment will be given, you have to write, discussion forum will be open, you have to write. So you're used well in writing communication. I think our students will acquire this knowledge. So let me tell briefly the internet skills required for a online learners or a online teacher, like web browsers. You should be familiar with the different web browsers, and web-based interaction like mail, chat, discussion, as I said earlier. Word processing is required, fundamentals like working with Word, working with Excel, Word, something like that. You should be familiar with the different search engines. I think this is something important, like you should be skilled in synchronous communications. You know how to use your Google Meet platform, how to use the Zoom, how to use GeoMeet. There are many other platforms there. It's also like your mobiles like this. Role of administrator in open education courses, encourage student faculty contact. I was telling, of course, the students are self-motivated, but sometimes we see, even we are offering here also, there is one blended program we are offering from NCERT, the diploma course in guidance counseling. So only the direct contact is only for 3 months, and another 9 months students are on distance. So we do everything online. So sometimes we see that some students, maybe the number is less, they will not be asking anything, they are not submitting any assignment. In that case, role of administrator to contact them, the encourage student to start interaction. So once interaction starts in a online, it will continue, and because of people will give the feedback, and I think that will continue. So for the administrator, as a there are you have to just maybe force both faculty and the student to start it. And active learning role of course administrator is to see that our course should not be loaded with only textual material. Our courses should not be loaded with the textual material. It should also include like simulation tools, simulations, video, games. So a variety of learning object, I say, a variety of learning objects or learning resources, and then which is motivating. And you see that we the learners get a prompt feedback, because without in online learning, this is something positive point of what we discuss in a online courses, because in a immediately you will get a feedback. The questions are answered in such a way, once you submit your answer, you will be getting a feedback whether they are correct or not. So this is something motivates the student to do the next task. Emphasis, the role of the administrator will be to emphasize time on task. Like, every hour deadline is there, so we expect the student should complete it. So these are the some of the online course management tools. I think in India we are using, as I said, SWAYAM platform we are using in India. I hope very clearly a teacher we can start creating some courses on SWAYAM by using a MOOC. There is a MOOC cloud which is free for some time. You can learn, or you can see the YouTube the YouTube video. You can see how to create a online courses on MOOC or SWAYAM platform. Another is a Moodle. So all these things what I am presenting here, the courses, these are known as course management tools. Some people they say they are learning management, LMS, learning management system. Learning management system. Some people say this is course management tools. Like in most of the foreign countries, they use this one, and almost all the tools are, there is a free version is there, or the paid version is also there. Blackboard, WebCity, eCollege, Moodle, SWAYAM, Angel. So these are the course tools are there. This by you can use this tool in your laptop, in your desktop computer, and you can create online courses. Right? But exactly what is reflected in online courses? What are the things available on the online courses? I said, in future, our higher education, at least to some extent, it will go for a online. Like online courses, what you'll find, you find schedule of a submission of the announcements. You find the detailed syllabus, the modules. The modules may be video modules are there, audio modules are there, textual modules are there, the assignments, discussion board. There is a platform is there. You can write one question. Let other students, they can also answer your question. Your teacher can answer the question. There is a chat room there. So these are different, different features. The features of a course management system. You can find if you want to direct contact to your teacher, you can send a private message to the concerned teacher or the tutor. There is a test is there. There is quiz is there. Grade book is there. Everything is there in the when you enroll. If you enroll it, I think you might have this idea. But now, if I suggest everybody, during this pandemic, you enroll in a open some courses. I suggest if you are a teacher educator and teaching in Department of Education, the government of India has given this responsibility for creating SWAYAM courses for teacher educators and teachers to NCERT. So from NCERT, if you go to NCERT website, and there you can find so many SWAYAM courses are there. So even teacher educator, as a teacher educator, you can enroll. Even you can encourage your students. Even students, they can do a courses. I think this is almost free with nominal charges. They are getting a certificate. So in NCERT website, you'll be getting everything. I think once I suggested, somebody asked, and Madam also trying to tell is, if you want to make your online classes interactive, you can use this tool I have written, www.menti.com. It is an interactive tool. I can ask you question and answer my question, and your answers will be visible on my screen. This is way.com. So you can use it. Let us see at the end if time is there. I think this is something I want to say. This is open education, online courses. Online courses, will be a normal in our country, maybe in the future years. Because government of India has taken a lot of initiatives. And this initiative, many people are not aware of it, and many people are aware of it. I want to share this one, maybe another 2-3 minutes, let me finish it. SWAYAM, I suggested SWAYAM and MOOC courses are available. UGC platform, NCERT platform, you can find it. So at present, there are 1,900 courses are available in across different disciplines. You can choose any course on your choice, on your demand. So you can enroll it. Swamprabha TV channel, online e-learning, online learning in online courses. Swamprabha TV channel now, we have 32 DTH channels are there, and these channels are run by NCERT, NIUS, UGC, IGNO. So they are even some technological university, IIT also, they are also running. So you will find 32 DTH channels. This is mainly available. Some of you are asking question like, we don't have a mobile phone, we don't have a internet connection. I think this TV is something like, majority of the people in India, they are having a TV with a digital connection. I think these channels are freely available in all the TV cable operators. So therefore, we can use a Swamprabha TV channel and for getting idea. And I'd like to suggest you, suppose I'm using Airtel TV for me, and there is a channel 440, where NCERT, we are having a live programs. We are having recorded programs are there. 24-hour channels are there. You can also get benefited. One information I want to share, in this channel you will get every day afternoon 3 to 4 o'clock. There is a webinar on educational technology. So every day we are discussing one tool. Suppose Mentimeter, how to use Mentimeter, how to use Gauhati, how to create course in so on. There are many things are there. National Digital Library NDL, around 4.3 crore texts. This is created by IIT Kharagpur and UGC. So E-Yantra, 300 lab for experiments. Mostly, when school, college are closed, and then we want to continue our education, including practicum experiments. This is created E-Yantra. If you go to the website, you can see a lot of experiments are they are recorded experiment in a simulated condition. So you can see, you can get knowledge. There is a virtual labs are there, 275 labs. E-GAN course, Open Education University, E-GAN course. Now the plenty of materials are available free and open. You can do it. In GAN TV channel for distance learner, this is managed by the Open Education University, like a UGC YouTube channel. That is a YouTube channel, to support our open education courses in future. Gyan Bani is a web radio program. There is a recently the government of India has created a Diksha platform for teachers, for the students. Diksha is a platform where you will get everything. You will get text, you will get PDF copies, you will get video lectures. So everything you will find in Diksha platform. Of course, e-Parthala is free books, free periodicals, journals, education, and I think as a educator, you can get benefit out of this. E-Parthala for students, those who are teaching and learning in a higher education stage, they can. E-Sodha Sindhu, there is a collection of e-journals for doing our research activity. Sodhganga, research scholars. Sodha Sindhu, there is a plagiarism software. If you want to check your plagiarism, you can go to that. Sakhyat is a platform for all educational news, like any educational news, maybe admission, entrance examination, anything you can get here. NRVR, National Repository of Education Resources, Open Education Resources. So you can go there. And recently the UGC is on Duan. There is a database for experts in different subjects. In education, there is a database for experts. Even for other subject, there is a database of subject are there. So why I share this one, because this is something the government of India and UGC and different universities they have taken initiatives, popularized e-learning, and maybe to introduce the Indian students in higher education to open education courses. Even UGC has a guideline also, exactly in future at least 25% of our courses in higher education will be imparted through open education modes. 25% of the courses will be imparted in higher education through open education mode, through online platforms. So therefore, the perspectives or the potentiality of online courses in higher education in India definitely will be better. And as a educator, as a faculty members, we should welcome it, and we should develop our potential. We should develop our our capacity for learning the skills, the competencies to become a online educator, to become a tutor in the online programs. So with this, I close here. If you have any question, we can have a discussion with a few questions.
Sir?
Yes?
Sir?
Dipti, over. Dipti?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Sir, there is one question from Ranjit Roy. And the question is, do you think that all the higher education system should be shifted to distance education centers in the long run? I repeat.
Dipti, can you repeat the question?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Of course, sir.
Please repeat the.
Okay, sir. Do you think that all the higher education system should be shifted to distance education centers in the long run?
So this is something, again, I of course, I am product of this online, face-to-face education system. But what I'm suggesting here, I'm not suggesting that all our university, colleges will shut down and close it and we'll go for online courses. I'm not suggesting that actually. So, some percentage of our education, mostly in higher education, will be shifted to online courses, online platforms. The distance education is growing in India. This is not in India, everywhere else. Almost every country, the open education is growing. The distance education is growing. You see, IGNOU is the largest university in India. So what I am not suggesting completely to shut down our present existing education universities. That will be, but in addition to that, or to help that university, so we want to introduce the online courses, online learning system in each and every university. You see the new education policy of 2020. They have strongly recommended, every university of this country will open a open education system because the number of university and higher education institution at present we have is limited. We cannot afford higher education to even the 50% of the students those who are passing school education. And therefore, this is one of the reasons why the government wants the distance education system should open, the open education should open, so that, at least the government target is, we should increase our enrollment in higher education to at least 50% by 2025. So therefore, I don't say this everything will be closed and will go on online, no. But online education will be supporting to us. If you are working somewhere else, you want to get a certificate, you want to enroll in your online courses, you are welcome, because you can meet your family commitment and family obligation. At the same time, you can learn some new courses, new skills, which will help you to getting a better jobs or getting a promotion that way. Even many of the Indian students, they will be getting benefit out of it. One, this is popularized, because the online courses are not popularized in India. Of course, we have online courses, but it is not so popular. Okay, Dipti, anybody else?
Yes, sir. There is another question from Dr. Srijana Rai. And the question is,
yes.
Given the present situation, online mode of teaching seems to be only option. How would you say that the online mode of teaching learning affect the quality of higher education or education in general in the long run? So shall I repeat the question?
No. I got the point actually. This is a kind of apprehension among the faculty members, among the students, about the quality of education through online. Even I agree, there are some practical aspect of our education that cannot be taught through online platforms, completely online, something relating to science, something related to technology cannot be completely transacted through online platforms. You mean like you open online courses, and therefore what I want actually, these courses require a blended kind of learning. Blended kind of learning, I mean, maybe 60% will be on distance mode, and 40% or 30% they can come to the center of education or university or colleges, and where the practical things will be discussed. But if you ask me the impact or the effect these online courses will have in our education system, I feel there will be a tremendous impact of this technology, online education courses and online medium of education on our school education, teacher education, and higher education. Because you see now, there is a that's an online platform has been, this is marketed now. You see, there is a Khan Academy, is a private body, and who has created an online education apps. Like from pre-primary to 12th standard, everything is there. They are selling now. By the application, you see. So therefore, in future, like instead of sending our children to the coaching center, and we will purchase a subscription of some of the online learning providers, and our students will be provided with a tablet or laptop, and they will be doing, because they have designed the Khan Academy. If you can see by the application, if you can see, they have designed the course material in such a interactive way that the students will be very, very motivated, and students will be students will be getting clarity on even very complicated matters. So I think it is a tremendous impact even after pandemic is over. Everything is normal also, but we will not able to forget, or we will not able to, I think, stop using online learning in the future. That's the government of India priority area now. Almost all the government education will be technologically sound. It will be offered through online medium to reduce the cost, because the government want to reduce the cost. How to reduce the cost? This is one of the medium. Like only one building, I can offer education to 50,000 people, no problem. So so it has a tremendous impact, or it will have a tremendous impact after this pandemic also. Well, you will see. Remember, you will see after 3 years, after 2 years. So we can do it. Okay. Like somebody is asking, how to compare the our online education with the our campus, in campus. Of course, there is a benefit of in campus education of campus universities and colleges, because many other things other than our curriculum, other than the teaching, we learn from campus, the socio-personal qualities, the kind of interaction with your friends. So exactly, when you stay in the campus, you learn the life education. I think life education is also important. But when you are doing a online courses only, then it creates a social isolation. Of course, you will be independent on your own study. You will be independent on your own study, but it creates a social isolation, I think, which is one of the very, very important aspect on our socio-personal development, and on our leading a healthy life or a sound life in the future. I think it has impact. So therefore, we suggest that should be in campus education, but for those who are not able to attend, or those who are having a some kind of family obligation, want to take up a job. So many of the friends, actually, those who join just after passing 12, they have joined some job. They have got some job and they are working now. They want to go for a higher education. For them, this open education course is easy. And for you, if you want to come to the university, you come and join. But that university will force you. I am sure maybe within 1-2 years, you'll find university will make it rule that this percentage of the courses will be completed through online mode only. For this, no teaching learning will happen in the university campus or a college campus. You have to find out the online courses and you have to learn. And therefore, now almost all the universities they have started preparing online courses. Even in NCERT also, we have advertised one for diploma in science education. We are running 2-3 online courses. One is a diploma course in guidance counseling. Then, like one is diploma course in science teaching. Recently, we launched. This is completely open and online with a minimum fee only. If you want to get a certificate, minimum fee 2 to 3,000 only. So we cannot compare with the online and the in-campus. Still, I am product of in-campus like education, and therefore I prefer it. But at the same time, we cannot ignore the online education system. Okay. Even when somebody is asking about the language, but now the regional university, the state university, they are taking up the issue and they want to develop the online courses on Tamil medium, on Bengali medium. I think the things will improve. Maybe within 5 years, you will get many online courses available in the regional mediums. Even in Orissa also, we have our Orissa State University, State Open University. They have started many courses on in regional mediums like Odia mediums. So that will not be a problem. I think I suggest all the faculty members, those who are listening to me, you can also start thinking on creating a course on SOEM platform or MOOC platform by using a regional medium. I think, another idea I want to suggest, always I suggest, now you are only consumer, I am also consumer, you are also consumer. Others has develop it and we are only using that. I suggest all the colleagues, all the friends, you become a prosumer. Prosumer, I mean, you can produce and you can consume both. So you can create online materials, online courses you can create. So at the same time, you enjoy reading the online courses created by somebody else. So in future, all our teacher educators will be consumers. The way you are writing books now, you have to create online courses, and that is a lot of credit given in the UGC, your career promotion. You know that in a career promotion, like API, you can see there is a point is also there. The credit for creating e-content materials. So e-content is nothing but it's a online learning materials. The credit is given. Therefore, all the teacher, educator, faculty member we should learn how to create it, because there is a credit for that. Okay, Dipti, I think I have taken much time here.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Dipti?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes.
I think we here end our question answer round. Thank you, sir, for sparing us your valuable time with us. Thank you for your interesting talk. It was a very informative session. Sir, we would also, in fact, look forward to listen to you in future. And thank you so much, sir. Our next speaker joining us today. Thank you, sir. Our next speaker joining us today is Professor Jayanti Das, who is presently teaching in the Department of Education, University of Calcutta, and is also the Secretary of PG Faculty of Arts, Commerce and Law at the University of Calcutta. She completed her MA, MPhil, B.Ed and PhD from the University of Calcutta itself. She has a teaching experience of more than 20 years and has widely published various journals. She has a publication of 5 books, and she is a member of All India Association for Educational Research and is a member of editorial boards of 2 international journals. Apart from academic responsibilities, she has remained active in administrative fields too. The title of her talk today is Challenges in Higher Education After COVID-19. Over to you, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you. And am I audible, Dipti? Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Hello.
Yes, ma'am, you're audible.
Okay. Thank you. Very good morning. And I am expressing my thanks to the organizers who organizes this kind of webinar. Actually, in so many webinars, I have discussed what is going on in the pandemic situation. But it is a new thought, new topic, that is challenges in higher education after COVID-19. And just here I am highlighting some probable scenarios. And you know that the pandemic that has shattered economies around the world has also battered education system in developing and developed countries. So some 1.5 million students, close to 90% of all primary, secondary, tertiary, and higher education learners in the world are no longer able to physically go to institutions. While each level of education faces its unique challenges, and it is the higher education segment that may end up by necessity triggering a learning revolution. Universities are distinctive in that their students are both old enough to handle the rigorous of online work and technologically savvy enough to navigate new platforms. But the real challenge lies for the institution in which they have enrolled. Can traditional campus-based universities adapt by choosing the right technologies and approaches for education and engaging their students? Actually, the successes and failures that unfold should give us all a better grasp of what is possible. Right now, video conferencing apps like Zoom and WebEx are showing universities a lifeline. And my previous speakers has discussed this online modes in very detail, with the online segment still comprising a small fraction of the $2.2 trillion global higher education market, less than 2%, according to market intelligence firm, the market is ripe for disruption. The appetite from students for online offerings will likely grow because of COVID-19. Even before the pandemic, many universities were seeing declines in enrollment for campus-based programs and parallel increases in uptake of their online courses. With COVID-19, we are seeing how yesterday's disruptors can become today's lifeguards. While traditional institutions once viewed online education as a threat, now it has come to their rescue. Academic schedules have been radically disrupted. Most students outside the metro-based middle class have limited computer access. Wi-Fi is a kind of spotty and erratic. There is a lot of electricity outage and synchronous. Virtual classes are very stressful for teachers not used to working with technology. However, since there are not many options for the time being, the education bulwark, so used to brick and mortar face-to-face interactions, is trying its best to adjust and quote-unquote adapt to the new normal. Actually, we have to forget the old world, and we have to go forward towards the new normal world. Many new learnings, new perspectives, and new trends have emerged. And here today, I'm discussing what kind of challenges we can face through this new learning, new perspectives, and new trends in future. Number one, fewer students will go back to institutions when it's reopened. I think so. As an overwhelming number of parents are asking the inevitable question. And this is my question as a son of mother. Why should my child go outside first? Especially since the virus is still to be brought under leash. India is going to be no different. A lot of well-heeled middle-class folks may prefer to delay the return of their children to school or college or universities. And of course, with so many livelihoods lost, many poor parents may not be able to, in any case, afford sending their offspring back to institutions for a long time. So the linked question may be that will this lead to homeschooling? I'm not sure 100%, but I can say homeschooling will become a distinct possibility with middle and upper middle families. Number two, fewer students will go out of town far from home to study. The nightmare of kids, we have heard about it, and also we have seen in the television that nightmare of kids stuck in Kota, Rajasthan, having to be rescued and brought back home is still fresh in the minds of most parents. Till the situation settles down somewhat, most parents will prefer to find workable alternatives closer home. Competitive exams are surely important, we can't deny it, but safety of the young ones will take high priority till the virus shows at least a visible downward trajectory. Number three, fewer kids will go overseas to study. Every form of international education is currently affected by the crisis and will be for some time. From study abroad schemes to staff exchanges and internships to transnational collaborative programs. Universities have been closed and or are delivering all education online. Every international conferences in higher education has been cancelled or turned into a series of webinars. As governments are starting to reopen society and restart business, universities will also gradually reopen their campuses. Nevertheless, new modes of social distancing will continue to apply for quite some time, affecting on-campus learning, which was discussed by Professor Mohalik, in physical spaces, from the international or from the classroom to libraries and on-campus student networking places. In the short term, international student mobility will decrease, and including possible probables will students visas. I think so, it will create a grave problem to take a student visa. International visiting professors could teach their courses online, continuing to provide some internationalization at home. Number four challenges is social distancing little, and obviously in the sports case I'm coming later on. The first bump, the first high five, and the warm handshake, the warm hug will be gone for a long time. The personal greeting, the smile, the intimacy, the bon ami have all been subtracted from the class of tomorrow. The class will go from social to asocial. Friendship, social networking, campus bonding, and huddles will be on hold for a while. Invisible wall will come up, diluting in many ways the fun and euphoria of campus life. And in case of sports, that is, this will be in low gear for a while, obviously due to social distancing. Number five, 2-shift or 3-shift classes. The need for social distancing will mean lesser students in each class. So, so the need for most educational institutions to perhaps work 2 shifts, maybe even 3 every day. While these will put infinite more pressure on the teaching and administrative staff, it may actually be a boon in disguise for the taught. Lots of colleges, schools, universities in India have far too many students packed into small classrooms. Number 6 challenges, that is, social distance may lead to some getting socially distant. As it is, we know that equality in the classroom has always been a fiction. The inequality, sadly, will only widen in the days to come. Caste, family background, social status, economic well-being, the kind of institutions we attended has invariably shaped the students' confidence to speak up in the class. The underprivileged would most likely always be the meek attendees who would feel afraid to say something wrong in class, hence would prefer silence over participation. Such inequalities do exist. The classroom with equal sitting, with uniform chairs, kind of brought an unsaid democracy to teaching. Technology which allows one student to access class from an air-conditioned, high-speed Wi-Fi home, while another may be trying to find a quiet corner in an overcrowded tenement with jumpy internet will further socially distance the class. Number 7, teaching versus learning will need figuring. Going forward, the role of the teacher will get redefined. The notion of a teacher or an educator as the knowledge holder who imparts wisdom to pupils is no longer fit for the purpose of the future. With students being able to gain access to knowledge and even learn many are technical skills through a few clicks on their phones, tablets, and computers, we will need to redefine the role of the teacher in the classroom of tomorrow. This may mean that the role of teachers will need to move towards facilitating young people's development as contributing, that means, and employable members of society rather than just lecturing. Number 8, teaching will go tech. That is, to enable remote learning, technology will kick in big time. The mechanics of remote instruction, however, are not necessarily inclusive or equitable. Remote instruction requires that students have access to both capable computing technology and reliable internet services. And in our country, perennial electricity too. There will be need to do more. Technology will enrich teaching, but for that, teachers and technologists both will have to preserve and innovate the new ideas. Number 9, technology in education alone will not be the enabler. If you want to see a true crisis in education, one has to look at the remote ones where a young teacher in an isolated village who has only received perhaps a basic college degree tries to teach 60 plus children in a dilapidated multi-grade classroom where books are scarce and many of the students, even more of their parents, are often functionally illiterate, while talk in some elevated places of learning at Harvard or even our own IITs and IIMs may be about how can technologies can help transform education. In India, it will first have to be about how much tools can help education system function at a basic level. It's a very common and important question to all Indians. Number 10, technology will be about the content, not the container. It is possible to become so enamored with the technology that insufficient attention is then given to how to use whatever devices are eventually deployed to their full effect. As we move to a greater proliferation of devices, combined with the fact that we will be accessing more content from multiple places, a greater value will be placed on the content and how that content is used, rather than on any one particular device. The device is available, but content? This is the question. Viewed from this perspective, the future of education is in the content, not the container. It's about more than just content. Of course, it's also about the connections and the communities that technologies can help enable, catalyze, and support as well in the future. Number 11, the future picture will be, quote unquote, the laptop and 1 mouse per child. It will be, but in our future days. Now that technology is finally entering the classroom, a laptop for every child may actually no longer be utopian, perhaps more doable in the connected basic classroom of tomorrow is 1 mouse per child. Number 12, a lighter school or school bag, I can say, because in our universities, students don't carry this kind of huge bag, may become a reality. On an average, an Indian school kid carries somewhere between 3 to 8 kilograms of weight every day to school, depending on the age and the class he or she is studying in. In addition to the books and notebooks, they carry a lunch box and a water bottle. So the digitization and technology in that case may help in shedding some of this weight. Homework too may move increasingly onto the net. Number 13 is Generation Z in our colleges and universities today is a generation that has grown up in a truly globalized and connected world. This Generation Z faced with cancelled exams, shortened school terms, postponed sporting events, and even delayed graduations will be troubled by both fear of being alone and fear of missing out. Education in the days ahead will have to address the loneliness of remote learning as well as the distress of lost opportunities. We will also see emergence of more protective, more pushy bulldozer parents who will try to propel Generation Alpha, that is Generation A, I can say, the children of current millennial parents, moving all obstacles out of their way to create a clear path for their entitled kids, making out as if nothing really has happened in the world around us. Number 14, distance learning courses may not be considered inferior. The Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, that is OECD, found that students who used computers had both lower reading and math scores. The Reboot Foundation released a similar study in June 2019. They too found a negative connection between each nation's performance and their students' use of technology in institutions. The more they used computer screens in schools, the lower the nation's rank in educational achievement. Number 15, blended learning and personalized education. There will be going forward a great opportunity to develop a new forms of blended education that will be in much demand. Pre-crisis, there was already a growing demand for more flexible and blended forms of lifelong learning beyond initial education in order to address the need to upskill and reskill for the digital economy. Mature adult learners in the future will be more and more interested in micro-credentials which allow them to acquire specific knowledge and skills. A lot of these will be self-learning, that too self-motivated and self-funded. Adult learners will also spend more on passion learning, hobbies or skills they always wanted to acquire but had no time for. With lesser travel, lesser likely socializing, and greater work from home, there will be more time for such learning indulgences. Number 16, learning outcomes versus informed citizenry. Just listen the word learning outcomes versus informed citizenry. That is, a vigorous debate has already been ignited on what online instruction means for learning outcomes, student satisfaction, instructor convenience, the cost of course delivery, and more. With the shift to online and blended education likely to continue beyond COVID-19 and become permanent, it will fundamentally transform the structure of the education system. Number 17, student debt crisis, DEBT, debt crisis. That is, this is more pronounced in the West. And in India too, lots of students, more their parents, are taking education loans. If the employment market does not pick up, students' debt could become a serious issue. It's really a big problem. And number 18, reskilling and upskilling will gain momentum. Often during recessions, enrollment in higher education surges as more people lose their jobs and or face a lack of job prospects. Even those employed often see economy downsides as an opportunity to enroll back in school if they were already in lower paying jobs. Those graduating might also want to stay back in school to get a postgraduate degree like was seen in the Great Recession. Courses to be pursued will surely be in technology, but vocational courses may also see a significant uptick, except that colleges and universities are not geared to cater to these domains, and the private sector is mostly opportunistic, shallow, and expensive. Number 19, artificial intelligence will personalize learning. The opportunities and challenges that the introduction of artificial intelligence could bring to higher education are significant. Today's colleges and universities face a wide range of challenges, including disengaged students, high dropout rates, and the ineffectiveness of a traditional one-size-fits-all, quote-unquote, one-size-fits-all approach to education. But when big data analytics and artificial intelligence are issued correctly, personalized learning experience can be created, which may in turn help to resolve some of these challenges. In my personalized learning experience, I can see that every student who would enjoy a completely unique educational approach that's fully tailored to his or her individual abilities and needs. This could directly increase students' motivation and reduce their likelihood of dropping out. It could also offer professors a better understanding of each student's learning process, which could enable them to teach more effectively. Number 20, artificial intelligence and cloud computing will enable MOOC. That has been discussed by Professor Mohalik. Massive open learning courses empower teachers and students in remote areas to learn and furnish themselves with the latest knowledge. While a definite objective is mass customization, different applications and projects will help this grow in reach and impact. Tutoring applications will be modified with their lesson structures relying upon the execution of a one-of-a-kind user profile. Number 21, examination and grading will undergo a change. Artificial intelligence will help teachers deal with assessment, evaluating, paper setting, making mark sheets, and tracking the performance of each student with less tedium. With this task made simple, they will be able to concentrate more on course improvement, teaching quality, and aptitude development. Artificial intelligence frameworks will also move examinations and scoring systems to go increasingly digital, with the role and discretion of the examiner reducing. Number 22, chatbots will provide personalized help and guidance. Recently, the University of Murcia in Spain began testing an artificial intelligence-enabled chatbot to answer students' questions about the campus and areas of study. As this chatbot was rolled out, the administrators were surprised to discover that it was able to answer more than 38,708 questions, answering correctly more than 91% of the time. Not only was this chatbot able to provide immediate answers to students outside of regular office hours, but university officials also found that the chatbot increased students' motivation. All of these benefits were achieved without the need to change the structure of the staff. Really, it is thinkable the thing that without changing the structure of the staff, all of the benefits were achieved. One additional benefit of having chatbots at universities to answer students' questions is the large volume of big data that would be obtained regarding students' concerns and areas of interest. This data could be analyzed to help enable universities to create innovative new services and programs to further improve students' educational perspective. Number 24, executive education will witness a sea change. The global university-based executive education market was worth close to $2 billion in 2019. But this has come to a juddering halt in 2020. Wharton Executive Education is one of the largest providers of in-person and online executive education in the world. That is Wharton Executive Education. More executives choose to learn with Wharton than any other elite business school in the world, with upwards of 12,000 attending programs in persons and over 50,000 completing online certificate courses in 2019. The decline in business caused by coronavirus at Wharton has been significant, but has been partially offset by an upstick in online enrollments and by converting some in-person programs into online courses. Be it Wharton or B schools in India, listen carefully, be it Wharton or B schools in India, competition is emerging from elsewhere. Universities will need to reconfigure their approach significantly to stay relevant. Number 25, augmented reality, that is a new concept, will make visualization, annotation, and storytelling better. That is, augmented reality, AR, is a powerful visualization tool. It allows one to bring an object or concept into a reality that is otherwise imagined, inaccessible, or difficult to grasp, and can even help to make the invisible visible. Just listen, help to make the invisible visible. All 185 first-year medical students at Case Western Reserve University, CWRU, you heard about the name, are using HoloLens and HoloAnatomy, an award-winning augmented reality app, to learn from their own homes in the lockdown. HoloAnatomy helps students learn about the human body in ways not otherwise possible. Annotation with AR helps guide through with the completion of a task, helps navigate a new environment, or even provide real-time descriptions of what's happening around. London's National Theatre is using augmented reality to help make its performances more accessible for people who are deaf and hard of hearing. When wearing a pair of smart caption of glasses, users see a transcript of the dialogue and descriptions of the sound from a performance displayed on the lenses. Augmented reality makes new modes of storytelling and creative expression possible, with experiences unfolding in real time. Introducing new and alternate perspectives, it changes the way we tell, share, and even remember stories. Another thing, the National Gallery of Prague is using haptics, that is virtual touch feedback, to help people who are blind and visually impaired experience artwork with touching masterpieces by Neurodigital. Wearing a pair of haptic gloves, users are able to see 3D virtual sculptures through a series of touch vibrations to the fingertips, palms, and hands. So, will all this happen in education? I say, happen soon. My guess is perhaps not all of it, not perhaps in India, not for now at least, but the more affluent West will surely see a lot of augmented reality happening in teaching. One can continue to discuss trends, seemingly unimportant ones like the shift to more and more digital will kill the skill of handwriting. It is really so. All of us are depending on computers. We forget about handwriting, really so. This is the coming future picture, and this will be happen. Even drawing by hand, digital teaching may kill books, and that howsoever we may use technology and artificial intelligence, students of science will still need labs to do experiments. Medical students will still need cadavers. A lot has to and will change in the field of education and learning in the weeks, months, and years to come. One thing is for sure: we are never going to go back to the pre-crisis era. This is now behind us. We will have to let go of the syllabus as it existed before. We will have to somewhat relearn the normal expected order of classroom teaching. We will have to rethink contact hours. We will have to revisit the notion of everyone having to do the same thing. We will have to re-examine assignments that invite cheating. We will have to recalibrate control and authority. We will have to question assumptions about what students want. We will have to tone down suspicions about students' integrity. We will have to huddle together to discuss covering the content and content delivery. And of course, we'll have to correct perceptions about students' access to technology and teachers' relationship with the same. Concurrently, educationists will have to latch on to caring for students as whole people, fostering community and connections that facilitate learning, working to understand each student's context, collaborating with students on their learning, learning from students. Obviously, we also learn from students, responding with flexibility, engaging in conversations about the difficulty of now challenging students to learn, not to just ride out the semester, avoiding isolation and collaboration within faculties, and using students and teaching colleagues as resources and sounding boards. So I can say tomorrow will be a new dawn, my dear students and my dear colleagues. Just what we make of it is entirely in our own hands. Change is desirable. Change is inevitable. Change is all the time and always acceptable. Change, in fact, has been forced upon us. Whatever we use the opportunity to advantage or let it pass us by will, decide whether the future will shock us or we will create shock absorbers that will, in fact, use the impact to cushion us in our journey to a better tomorrow. Thank you very much.
Ma'am, thank you so much. Ma'am, some questions we have here from Ms. Kranti Devan. And her question is, since for a subject like language in the UG level, the faculty could deliver the lecture efficiently and also finish the syllabus on time. However, I, being a teacher of economics, my syllabus is not yet over as the teaching methodologies are more practical based. So kindly comment on this question.
Really, it's a big problem because in my subject also, it is also the practical based subject. And in that case, whatever we have done, that is practical works may be shifted to assignment or project based, may be shifted. Because one thing we can use in our home, because this kind of during the COVID-19 situation, in a teacher for practical class. So just for example, for psychology practical, if teacher makes something else, something new thing, just paper made, maybe it may be paper made. So and by showing to the students, I think it will create a problem. But still, teacher, if teacher can or teacher try to show something new one by paper-made thing, I think it will shorten the problems. And for the science subject, really it's a big problem, because all the materials and all the things are not available in our homes, and we have to go to science lab. And not only that, if we arrange our science laboratory and maintaining social distancing, we can use the science lab, and through video conferencing we can show the what kind of reaction takes place. But I prefer face-to-face learning or learning by doing. This is not possible by through online mode. Obviously it is not possible by learning by doing things through online mode, and it will create a problem for the science students. And but to some extent we can arrange in the laboratory, maintaining social distancing, to show the what kind of reactions or what kind of thing are happening in the science laboratory. And in also in our education and psychological based laboratory subjects also. But the main thing is that really face-to-face interaction and learning by doing, it's a I think I will miss it. Not for theoretical classes, it doesn't create any problem, but for practical classes it really creates problem.
Ma'am, her second question is, also more than the teacher-student ratio, the teacher-paper ratio is low, very low in certain government colleges in West Bengal. In such a situation, how to cope with the huge syllabus?
How to cope with the huge syllabus? Through online mode, we can't complete the whole syllabus. In that case, teacher can arrange video conferencing, or teacher can arrange Google Meet, or teacher can arrange WhatsApp video call through WhatsApp, which is not too much expensive, to discuss with the students about the syllabus. And in that COVID-19 situation, in our university, already we have arranged this kind of lecture through online mode. So if teacher wants to complete the syllabus, he or she can prepare the study materials, and by circulating the study materials through website or through university's website, or through mail, he or she can arrange it. And after sending the material to the students by mail or by website, then he or she can discuss the whole matter through video conferencing or through WhatsApp. So if teacher wants, I think so, as a teacher, I think that if teacher wants, he or she can do it. Next. Hello. Hello.
Hello. Hello, can you hear me, ma'am?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am, we can hear you. Next question is from Dolly. What I feel that comparatively schools and primary level education will come up with more critical problems like learning gap, stagnation, etc. Students who enroll themselves in higher education are well equipped and mature enough to understand and adjust. There may be more problems of mental health and well-being as they are more concerned with career. What will be your take on that, and how should the students be treated?
this is the really I think that for higher education, students are too matured and they can handle their mobile or various kinds of apps they can handle. But in the pre-primary and primary cases, even just for example, for my son, he is only 6 years. He can't handle any kind of mobile, and when it can be muted or unmuted, and picture presentation, this kind of things he can't handle. So in that case, those who are working parents like me, they are facing problems. Just I have said to Dr. Subba that for this morning, for this kind of interesting webinar, I have missed a class. For my son has missed a class, because for working parents, it creates a problem to handle the children and to handle their learning situation. But I think in this situation, a working parent can arrange various kinds of things, just like flip learn. It's a very interesting, and it's from class, I think from age of 4 to class 12. Various kinds of matters and various kinds of video matters have been uploaded in the flip learn. And in this period, if students means so little kids for pre-primary and primary, may be busy with that particular materials through flip learn. Flip learn is, I think, I am suggesting flip learn because it's very interesting. It is very students can, or basically children can learn so many things from flip learn, and it is not too much expensive. Already I have talked to Baiju, it is very much expensive, but flip learn is not expensive. Not very expensive. So in comparison to the student of higher education with the student of pre-primary and primary, they are this kind of matters or this kind of app we can download, and through this we can teach the students, and students may be busy with their flip learn based education.
There is one more question from Achinta Roy. Will the new national education policy create new challenges in this COVID-19 situation?
National education policy, I have also seen, but I think it is not in implementing stage. So we can't say that it creates problem or it will solve many problems. We can't say. After implementation of the policy, obviously we can say, but mostly I used to say that for national education policy, we have to prepare ourselves as a teacher, and we have to prepare ourselves as administrators, and especially how to cope up with the situation. How to cope up with the situation that should be learned through this national education policy, because it is in the not in the implementation stage. So we don't know what types of problems do we face, or what types of problems will we face. So we have to wait for the implementation stage. Then we can say, or then we can prepare the study materials, or we can prepare ourselves for this new kind of policy, isn't it?
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much. I think with this we end up our question answer round here. Thank you very much for your interesting talk, and it really enlightened us, and it was very much informative. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank
I once again thank to all our speakers, Dr. Viren, Professor Mohalik, and Professor Das. Your priceless talk in this platform today has really enriched us, and it has really helped us to understand the issues further. Thank you, ma'am. I would now head over the last session to Miss Pratistha Gurung for the vote of thanks. Over to you, Pratistha.
Thank you, Diti ma'am. So, good afternoon, all. Am I audible?
Yes.
Okay. Good afternoon, all. As all good things come to an end in life, so is the conference. I, on behalf of Department of Education, Southfield College, Darjeeling, would like to take this opportunity to propose hearty vote of thanks to all the honorable dignitaries who blessed us with their presence and helped us in making this 2 days international conference a success. At the outset, I thank our Madam Principal, Dr. Anuradha Rai of Southfield College, Darjeeling, for taking out her precious time and for her enthusiastic support and constant motivation. I must mention my deep sense of appreciation for the convener of our virtual conference, Dr. Dipti Subha, for her unflinching support and initiative. We have been very fortunate to be graced with the presence of Dr. Vijoya Viren, Associate Professor, Early Childhood Education, University of Texas, US. Thank you, ma'am, for making an exceptional presentation and making this conference very interesting and meaningful. Thank you, ma'am. I would like to express my heartfelt gratitude to Professor Ramakanta Mohalik, RIE, NCERT, Bhuvaneswar, Orissa. Thank you, sir, for sharing your knowledge with us. I further express my heartfelt appreciation to Professor Jayanti Das, Department of Education, University of Calcutta. Ma'am, we were really enlightened with your knowledge. Thank you, ma'am. I express my hearty thank to our technical coordinator, Ms. Neha Roy. Without her support, this conference would not have been possible. Thank you, Neha. I extend sense of thanks to the organizing team members. Thank you for your contribution for making this seminar and conference a success. And last but not the least, I express my deep sense of appreciation to all the wonderful participants and to all my dear students who participated actively and attended the conference with great enthusiasm. So here we come to the end of our 2 days virtual conference. I hope all of you got enriched and motivated by the presence of our most eminent speakers from India and from abroad. And here I conclude this session. Once again, thank you all and have a wonderful day ahead. Thank you.